Hello, hello. Oh my goodness! Don't you just love when you start up a computer and sometimes stuff just does not want to launch with it? Don't you just love that? Don't you just love that? Anyway, hello, welcome in. I'm George Herbig, Chief Forecaster here with Weather Now, Kentucky. Now that we can start on this broadcast because the microphone decides to finally function at this point, we do have quite the concerning turn in weather for Thursday, especially Friday. Uh, it looks like a different type of setup, and I want to talk about it with you guys because I think we're going to start seeing a lot of different posts and stuff rolling around. So I wanted to make sure we went live tonight and kind of clear the air a little bit on what to expect, when to expect, how to expect things. And I also just want to talk to you again because I think that Friday especially is the real deal. I really do. It's a pretty rare type of setup for us in Kentucky. Usually this setup comes back toward like March, April. But the really cool yet very concerning type of aspect to this storm system is that we're going to have late winter, early March type of wind shear, which is actually a little bit higher than we usually have in the spring. So that's a bit concerning, number one. Number two, you're mixing with that dew points and temperatures that we usually see in July or like late June-ish. So when those two combinations get together, at any point, they always pop out to you on when you're looking at model data and doing weather analysis and all that. When you add into all that the amount of dry air that's being forced with this, I think all boxes are kind of checkmarked for me at this point to have enough confidence in saying I think Friday could be quite the day for a lot of folks in Kentucky. I don't usually like to say that, especially more than like 24 hours out, but I feel like we have enough confidence there in almost every metric that we look at that's saying that is just screaming that this could be a higher end severe threat. And it's not even just tornadoes that we're talking about. I think the main thing we're talking about here is the potential for very large hail. Very we're talking up to tennis ball sized hail in some places, and we're not talking about usually when we deal with a hail threat here in Kentucky. Only one or two counties ends up getting that big hail. Like, for example, Owensboro about a month ago, Greene County a couple weeks ago, or what was it, last week? Somewhere out there in far southeastern Kentucky, I want to say toward like Hazard or Harlan, ended up getting some very large hail just last week. So usually it's only one county for every storm system. This one looks to be a very widespread event. So what we're going to do in this video is break down. There's a potential for 3 different rounds of storms. So we're going to break down those. We're going to look at all the metrics that we look at here, kind of explain to you what time, when to expect things, how to expect things, where things may be worse than other places, so on and so forth. So that's the whole goal of this video here. So make sure you share the broadcast before we get started. Make sure you share the broadcast on your newsfeed so your friends and family can view it. Of course, like, share, all that good stuff. You guys know how this stuff rolls. You are not rookies. So, if you are just not tuning in, by the way, you have not missed a thing. I was kind of stalling a little bit there to allow you to get in here. I'll get started here in about 10 to 15 seconds. Again, just wanted to make sure everyone has enough time to get in here that wants to be in here. Of course, you can watch this video on playback at any point that you like. I saw some comments about the setup behind me. Thank you very much for your kind words. I appreciate that. That's a tornado warning. Not for us, but I just want to see where it's at. Oh, out in Nebraska. Wow, okay. So, that says, go ahead and switch over to our main screen here and kind of give you a look at what we're looking at here. So, first of all, I want to start with the Storm Prediction Center's forecast, and then we're going to go and look at the actual model data, and we're going to look at some other cool things, all right? But what I want to start here with is the SPC's forecast. Now, this is day 2, so this will be tomorrow. Now, the tricky thing about these forecasts that not a lot of people know about is they don't run midnight to midnight like a lot of things do because, of course, nothing can ever just be normal in our world. They actually run 7 a.m. to 7 a.m. So why is that important? Because I think on Friday between 5 to 10 a.m. in the morning, yes, that's a very weird time frame, and that just kind of shows you already this is not going to be an easy system here, okay? Friday, 5 to 10 a.m. in the morning, it looks like a big target for large hail in Kentucky. And so what that means is that our threat's actually going to fall between two different maps here. And you can kind of see that. So here's your day 2, right? And then here's your day 3, which kind of extends everything. Also on day 3, which is Friday, in the afternoon, we have another round. Thursday is where everything starts, though. So let's go ahead and start with Thursday. Here is your map for Thursday. And again, this is all, we'll be posting all this anyway. So if I do go too fast for you, don't worry about it. we'll post these maps anyway. And these are going to be updated tonight, so I'm waiting till tonight to post them. Because I feel like when we post these too much, people get confused. Because they update every 6 to 10 hours sometimes. So this is the day 2 current, level 2 out of 5 risk. You're going to see that and say, that's not too bad. And I think this will be upgraded eventually, mainly because of Friday morning, not necessarily Thursday. Thursday, to me, I know we've mentioned Thursday a lot. There is the potential for around Thursday night, and I'll talk to you about that, and I'll show you on the model data. But it's not anything that's set in stone. There is going to be so much. When you walk outside tomorrow, guys, I want you to know you're going to need multiple sticks of deodorant. You're going to need to apply deodorant a lot tomorrow, because the dew points are going to be in the mid 70s, which is that category of, oh my goodness, this feels like I'm going to die out here. It's suffocating almost. So that's where all of this is coming from, by the way. We go from being, in the highs in the 60s, a couple days ago, to now today we had the high of, like, I believe 82, 83 degrees for a lot of places. You're talking about also very warm and moist air, just very moist air moving in with a dry line pushing behind it. And that's what's going to cause a lot of this to spark. I do think tomorrow we'll probably see an upgrade for along the Ohio River, somewhere down in here, for mainly, again, for Friday morning. Because, again, you have to remember these maps run 7 a.m. to 7 a.m. Again, I don't know why it's not midnight to midnight. I've never understood that. People have explained it to me several times. I still don't understand it, because I think it just creates a lot of confusion, because not a lot of people know that they run 7 a.m. to 7 a.m. Even though it says it up there, not a lot of people know that. So this is a level 2 out of 5 risk, and this is mainly going to be for wind and hail. There's your wind map. Same thing as the slight risk. There's your hail map with a hatched area. So again, this kind of shows you where you might see a level 3 out of 5 risk get expanded into. Again, the potential is there for very large hail. And again, this is mainly going to be for Friday morning. There is a round on Thursday evening. I'll show you guys all this. I know this is a lot to throw at you, but don't worry. I'm going to break it all down even further. Right now, we're just kind of doing a little overview. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at your outlook for day 3, which is Friday, which there is already a level 3 out of 5 risk at play here. And again, this is going to be for the morning round, and this is going to be for the afternoon and evening round. All right. Both rounds, by the way, look like they can carry the potential for that upper echelon of severe level weather. And I know I'm going to look over there. People are going to ask me, well, if we get a lot of activity in the morning, can it affect the afternoon and evening? Yes, it always can. And that's the big question right now. It's the obvious elephant in the room. How does Friday morning act? And will that affect Friday afternoon and evening? It can, absolutely can. The only caveat to that is there is so, I cannot explain to you how much warm and moist air is moving in here. It's going to feel like you're getting microwaved in a frozen bowl. That frozen bowl's in the microwave, and you're just getting all that steam from that bowl there. That's how it's going to feel on Thursday and Friday in Kentucky. It's going to feel like disgusting outside. And so my thought process is, as long as Friday morning isn't anything too entirely long lasting, I think that it won't really have much of an effect on Friday afternoon and evening, as long as that round for Friday afternoon and evening does not start too early. Again, I know it's a lot to throw at you. Don't worry, we're going to break it down on the model data. You're going to see it for yourself in real time. Again, we're kind of doing an overview here. Now, since this is day 3, we don't have the 4 categories to break down, but we do have probabilistic. So this is the probabilistic map. This is basically telling you, hey, this is where severe weather is probably going to target. And again, this is probably going to change. I imagine this probably comes a little bit further south for Friday. Again, it's important to remember that they always start small on these maps, and then each day as we get closer, that's how they start to expand. So don't look at this map right now and say, oh goodness, thank goodness Somerset's not included in the big category. We're good to go. This is probably going to change by the time we get to Friday. So just keep that in mind. This is not going to be the same map that we're going to see Friday, because I think this is probably going to come more south. I think if you're going to ask me, almost everywhere in Kentucky has a risk for severe weather, except for maybe far eastern Kentucky, like Pikeville, Elkhorn City, Williamson, Jenkins, so on and so forth. And again, even there, you might still see severe weather. It's not going to be the upper echelon that I think Northwest, North Central, Western, and Northern Kentucky, I think it's absolutely going to be unfortunately your bullseye, for lack of better terms, for those storms. And yes, that does include Louisville. So that's your maps from the I can't think right now. The Storm Prediction Center. Oh my goodness, my mind just went completely blank here. Let's go ahead and look at the model data here. Again, I kind of want to put some different perspective on this for you. So we're going to look at a couple different models. Since these models, as you can see on that left side, can only go out 48 hours, it cannot see the entire scope of the storm system. It can only see up to 48 hours out. So this can only right now see until about Friday afternoon, and you can already see it's kind of sparking off some nasty stuff here. It doesn't take me to look at this and tell you, oh, it's not going to be pretty. You can look at this and determine that for yourself. So what I want to start with here, I'm going to zoom this into the local view so you have some nameplates to work with. I just want to kind of show you the evolution of Thursday first, because Thursday, let me put it to you this way. Thursday has a full tank of gas. You know, you're going somewhere, you fill up your car, you fill it up with a full tank of gas there. If Thursday has a full tank of gas, it's just a matter if someone's going to actually start that car. I don't know if we're actually going to even see storms. I do feel confident that at some point that cap breaks. The model's trying to say that cap will break, Thursday afternoon. I don't know, because there's so much warm air. Like, for example, let me click on this and show you. Let me actually scoot that back a little bit. I'm going to click on this to show you. This is going to look absolutely crazy, but what I want you to pay attention to, don't pay attention to that. That's just a generated term. Don't pay attention to that. What I want you to pay attention to is this red line here. This is the temperature, okay? And why is this important is as you go up this line, you're going up into the atmosphere. As you can see here, we are at the ground. That's above 1,000, okay? I know it kind of goes backwards, so it's kind of tricky, but the lower the number on this left side, the higher you're going up into the atmosphere. And the temperature as you go up into the atmosphere really matters, because if it does exactly what it's doing right here, which is a wiggle to the right, which means that usually once you go up, as you guys know, if you've ever been in a plane, it's a lot colder above our heads. It's always freezing, right? Eventually, you always get to a point where it's always freezing, because it's always getting colder as you go up into the atmosphere. What's important about this is that about a few thousand to about 5,000, 6,000 feet up, we have a warm nose. If you can take your imagination, this should be a perfect straight line to the left. This red line should be a perfect straight line to the left, because that's how our atmosphere should work. Whenever you have warm air that's nudging into the middle like that, that's what we could refer to, if you ever heard us talk about, a cap or a lid over the environment. That warm air above our heads is going to help keep storms from either getting strong enough to produce severe weather or keep them from generating at all. So that's why the temperature line is super important. And even when the model is saying, hey, we're going to see storms, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, because when I click on the actual environment and look at it, this is pretty massive. This is a pretty massive, the scientific term is capping inversion. This is a very massive cap over the environment. It's going to take a lot to rip that cap off. Can it happen? Yes, but I think it's more likely after sunset rather than before sunset. And as you can see here, the time frame it's trying to break the cap is about 3 to 4 p.m. tomorrow. So I don't know if that's extremely likely. We'll keep an eye on it and show you guys. And if storms do go, and they do pop, they can be quite severe tomorrow. I don't think it's as severe as Friday, but they can be quite severe tomorrow, with the potential for very, very large hail and damaging winds. And I know it sounds like, oh, it's not too bad, but guys, when you're talking about hail that's ping pong, golf ball, tennis ball, baseball size, it's not a pretty sight. It's not a pretty sight. So advancing this forward, again, it does have that Thursday line kind of exploding right around sunset at this point. Just east of I-65, especially as it gets closer to I-75. And then once it gets past I-75, it starts to dwindle it back down a little bit. And again, that kind of shows me that this doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because usually between about 6 to 9 p.m.-ish, that's usually when storms hit their peak around here. And it's telling me that we're going to have a peak of 5 to 7 p.m., which is not anything crazy, but then it completely dies at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And so, again, I don't think this model on the surface to me right now is making a whole lot of sense. This is why I'm going to show you multiple models. But this is just one scenario for Thursday. So in this scenario for Thursday, Western Kentucky won't see a whole lot. Southern half of Kentucky won't see a whole lot. But the northern half, especially central and eastern Kentucky, the potential for very large hail and damaging winds is there for Thursday. And again, that time frame was 4 p.m. to about 10 p.m. west to east. Again, that's one scenario. I think if we do see anything Thursday, it's probably later in the evening. Again, that's just my 2 cents, my gut feeling there. All right, so that's Thursday evening. That gets out of here. And then Friday morning, right around sunrise, which, by the way, is usually our calmest time in the environment. That's when the model decides it wants to spark a line of storms. Now, this one, even though it's in a weird time frame, makes a lot more sense to me. The reason for that is, at this time on Friday, we're actually going to see that jet stream that we always talk about above our heads. It's going to be absolutely ramping, rocking, and rolling. And when that occurs, you can get that cap to break. Also, the temperatures and dew points at 5 a.m. are going to be much more calm than they will be at 5 p.m. the day before. So, again, this makes a little bit more sense to me. And this has actually been popping up on the models for a few runs now. The question for this round is exactly where is it going to set up at? Because if I go back to an older run here, so this is going to be the same time on an older run here. I just kind of, why did it just randomly log me out? What in the world? Now I got to reset everything. It just randomly logs me out. But if we go back to that same time frame on an older run of this exact same model, it has that. So by the way, it has that Thursday round, afternoon and evening, much more south, much more south, much more south. So again, now we're starting to see the wiggles happening. And this is why we don't talk about things too far in advance, because there's so many wiggles that are going to happen. There's no way anyone from Monday or Tuesday or even Sunday is going to be absolutely correct about things, because there's way too many things that are unknown. And the biggest thing that's unknown right now is the exact track of those storms for Thursday night into Friday morning. Because again, here's an older run of that same time frame for Monday morning, or I'm sorry, Friday morning, and it has that line all the way up on the Ohio River. And by the way, this is all rotating, all severe, all hail. This is a big line of storms. And then it's out of here. On the newer run, which we have a brand new run coming in probably in about an hour and a half. So I wish I could do these broadcasts later, but half of you go to bed at like 9 o'clock is what you tell me. So advancing this forward, you have that line, that same line on the brand new model. It actually has that coming all the way down to the south. Remember, this was all the way up on the river here. So that wiggle of that means, hey, Owensboro on that older run, it absolutely slammed you. But on this run, you have absolutely nothing going on. And that right there is why talking about things too early can be detrimental if you don't take the time to explain. So advancing this forward to around 8 to 9 a.m., again around sunrise, it does show rotating storms moving west to east, now across I-65 and pushing east and over an I-75 and out toward the eastern Kentucky area. So again, that's very important because it has a southern side of this line rotating, and that southern side of the line is all the way down here now versus where it was up here at the Ohio River. My gut feeling is telling me it's probably somewhere in the middle. Okay, usually when you see these big wiggles happen, it almost always ends up being somewhere in the middle, and it almost always favors the northern track. Going this far south for this Friday morning line, to me, is not something we see usually a whole lot of. By the way, don't pay attention to those sounds. Those are tornado warnings going out in Nebraska. They're not for us. I just have the radar open right now. So again, seeing this kind of tells me that the models are still struggling. I think by tonight, especially obviously tomorrow morning, we're going to have a really good idea on where to expect things for Friday morning. But as of right now, I know the potential is there for somewhere in west, central, eastern Kentucky, where we have that potential for some really, really, really large hail and damaging winds as people are waking up on Friday, which is, again, super abnormal. We don't really see that too much. We very rarely ever see severe weather in that time frame. And what that takes is a lot of warm air moving in, and that's exactly what we have. So that's one model, and that's for the first two rounds. I'm going to go to a model now that can kind of see all three rounds. The only problem with this model is that it's been very bad with actually depicting what starts and what doesn't start. And you'll see what I mean. So for Thursday, in the morning, pretty clear, nothing too crazy. By the afternoon, nothing too crazy. Remember, on the other model that we saw, there was a line or cluster of storms right here at this exact same time. So again, just goes to show you, don't look at one model only. You have to do your due diligence. So advancing this forward, it doesn't really see anything for Thursday. It doesn't really see anything for Thursday at all. And matter of fact, it doesn't really see a whole lot for Friday morning. It just doesn't. What it does see is something sparking around the late morning and early afternoon hours on Friday, which is possible. And again, I'm not leaning one way or the other here. What I'm wanting to show you is the scenarios that are at play. All right. So this model has everything kind of sparking a little bit later on Friday morning, but it doesn't have it as a big line as that other model showed. It had it as a few cells. Those few cells die down once the heat kicks in, which again doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Advancing this forward, it does have that line approaching western Kentucky. of our Friday evening. The problem with this is you see this big O cluster right here in front. This is likely trying to depict a rogue supercell in front of the line, which if that's the case, this could be a big problem. This could be a big problem in a lot of ways. You're talking about the potential for extremely large hail with this. Could even be tornadic. It could be a lot of things. And again, this is just one scenario. So I don't want to take this verbatim and say, hey, Mayfield, goodbye, or hey, Murray, goodbye, or hey, no. Again, don't look at this and say, oh my goodness, no, because this is probably going to change by the time we get to Friday. But my goal in this video is to show you just what the potential is and kind of start talking about it. And then, of course, Thursday and Friday, we'll be talking about it a whole lot more. Advance this forward, again, does not take a meteorologist, does not take anybody fancy to look at this and say, oh, this is not going to be pretty. This is not going to be good news. This whole line pretty much is rotating. And as a matter of fact, this looks more like a squall line to me rather than a line of storms at this point, which again is not good news because it's going to allow for a slightly larger hail threat, a slightly larger damaging wind threat, and yes, even a slightly larger tornado threat. I will say this though. The tornado threat, while it's there, does not look like anything major in comparison to the hail threat. I cannot explain to you, because we don't see it in Kentucky a whole lot. People aren't going to respect it as much as when they hear the word tornado. They're going to hear hail and go, oh, that's fine. We usually get small hail here. And that is true. But for this event, we're looking at the potential for widespread ping pong ball sized hail, which right there is enough to cause a lot of damages, injuries, to put those caught outside, so on and so forth. But we're also looking at the potential for isolated spots within that line to go up to golf ball, baseball, tennis ball, even up to softball sized hail. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen that. We don't, because we don't usually get it a whole lot in Kentucky. But we're talking about that level of hail coming down, while wind speeds in these storms are 60 to 70 mile per hour. You're talking about something that could be even more damaging than a tornado coming through. I don't think I can accurately explain how concerning that threat is. So, again, I know the reason I stopped to say that is because I don't want people in here hearing it's just damaging winds and hail again. We've had the same storm system several times last few weeks. This is not going to be anything major. This is different because there's way more wind shear involved with it. I could go into all the scientific nerdy stuff about how the high pressure sitting below the low pressure, so on and so forth. We could do all that, but I'm going to save you your ears because it's boring to me. It's boring to you all. But the ingredients are there for this to be a widespread, very large hail risk. Very large hail risk. And we just don't usually see those in Kentucky, so people aren't going to respect that threat like they should until they wake up and their windshield's gone. And so I want everyone to make sure that they have something to cover their vehicles with, all that good stuff that you always hear for storms, because this is the real deal. So advancing this forward to 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern time, you can see that line. It just continues to get stronger as that's heading into central and eastern Kentucky. This model right now is trying to show a Boeing line of storms that are pretty much all rotating, producing severe and significant hail, as well as significant damaging winds. Advancing this forward, this is about from midnight on Friday going into Saturday morning. This is about the time that the storm line should begin to die down, and that is the case. It's still showing quite the severe signal for isolated portions of the line, but it's not widespread like you once saw, and the model ends. So those are your two close range models right now. So just to recap for anybody that might be just tuning in here, basically we have the potential for 3 rounds of storms, okay? We have the potential for 3 rounds of storms. Thursday evening, Friday very early in the morning, 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. Could be a little bit later if that other model is correct, but I think it's probably closer to sunrise. And then you have the potential for another round, the Big Bang event right there at the end of Friday afternoon going into Friday evening. All 3 of those rounds, the main risk is damaging winds and large hail. All 3 of those rounds are also going to carry a tornado risk. The greatest tornado potential is probably going to be Friday afternoon and evening. And again, that's still, to me, not a big... We could see a couple of strong tornadoes. But again, in comparison to the hail and damaging wind threat, we could see damaging wind reports of 80, 85 mile per hour with this. We're talking about big boy hurricane level stuff with that type of wind speed. I think we could also see lots of hail reports of ping pong, golf ball, maybe even baseball, tennis ball sized hail. So in comparison to those threats, the tornado threat to me isn't the main risk, but it's still definitely a risk that's on the table. So those are your three different rounds, your three different time frames there. Right now, we cannot get more specific than that. I think Western and Central Kentucky, because that's where the line is going to originate each time. So this is the same for each round. Is going to be a bit more of the bullseye. Whereas Eastern Kentucky, you're still going to see strong to severe weather, but it's not going to be that bullseye. But it will still be a respectable threat. So again, just keep that in mind. With all three rounds, it will go west to east on the severe threat there. I think the more north you go, so again, a bit opposite once more. I think the more north you go, the better you find the chances for severe weather. Again, the upper echelon, I should say, of severe weather. Right there along the Ohio River has my concern, because I think that's where the best mixing is for everything. That might be where the best tornado potential is, especially on Friday. So this is going to be a long 24-hour stretch, again, starting Thursday evening to Friday evening. Thursday evening, again, has the lowest confidence for me. I'm not sure if we even see storm activity form. If we do, they can carry that severe risk of damaging winds and large hail. It's just a matter of if they're going to form. And again, we'll keep you posted on that. Friday morning and Friday afternoon definitely has much more of my confidence, because it makes much more sense synoptically for storms to actually form and go, if you will. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I'll get to a lot of your questions here in just a moment, but of course we have to pay the bills here, so I want to make sure you get a message from our sponsors. They support us 24/7, so we can be here for you guys all the time. So hopefully you consider supporting them as well, and then after this break, I'll answer some of your questions. FBI Buildings has over a half a century of experience in renovating, remodeling, and rebuilding any residential and commercial building. They also can give your pole barns new life. If any disaster does hit, be sure to go to FBIbuildings.com for a free quote. Hyper Roofing has experts on their staff that work with insurance companies and can talk their language. We know that sometimes when it comes to disasters, that insurance companies and roofing companies and you all may not have points that align. So having that on your side is super important, at least to me. They also use GAF. They're only one of 12 roofing companies statewide that are able to give an additional 15-year wind warranty at no extra cost to you. They're also Better Business Bureau accredited. All these things to me are super important when I'm thinking about the big thing that's on top of my house protecting me from all these storms. Make sure that you're being proactive about it. Reach out to Hyper Roofing. They not only serve Hardin County, but the surrounding counties in Kentucky. To me, that's who we trust. And so I feel very confident telling you that you could trust them as well. Thank you so much to Hyper for their partnership with us, and we hope that you consider using Hyper Roofing and being proactive in keeping your family and your shelter safe. Bright Implement has over 15 locations throughout all of Kentucky, and making it convenient for you to go shop with them. They're our longest standing sponsor, and we appreciate them so much for their support. They have so many things, from outdoor apparel to outdoor vehicles to things to help you on your farm. Right Implement is such a phenomenal company and someone that you really want to support in Kentucky.
Ah, it's deer season.
Already? Nice knowing you. We gotta hide.
No, not that deer season. Deer season. It's that time of year when you can get $3,000 off at an authorized John Deere dealer.
A deer season that saves bucks?
That's right.
It's deer season, now through June 2nd.
And again, thank you to all of our sponsors. Also, there were a couple that people that got left out there because I haven't had a chance to update the ad roll there. Once Upon a Child in Plato's Closet in Elizabethtown, Kentucky joined us this past week, so I want to make sure we mention them. I'll get their stuff updated here soon, but make sure that you go shop there with them. That's where we go for Samuel, by the way, as well, if you guys wanted to know that. I thought it was pretty cool when we finally made that connection, because it's one of our favorite spots. There's always really great deals. And, you know, really great quality clothing and stuff. So make sure you go visit Once Upon a Child in Plato's Closet in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, because once again, they're on our scrolling row, but they're not on the actual B row there. So I wanted to make sure we gave them a quick shout out. And thank you to them for joining our group of supporters. Once again, a lot of our sponsors are the reason that we can be here for you guys 24/7. So hopefully you consider supporting them, because again, without them, there's not a Weather Now Kentucky. So thank you to Once Upon a Child and Plato's Closet in Elizabethtown and everybody else that's helped us to be able to be here for you guys 24/7. So I'll get to a few questions now. When it comes to the specific towns and cities and counties and stuff, guys, we're not going to answer a whole lot of those right now, because again, I think there's still a lot of questions. Where exactly these storms track, to me right now, is the biggest question, because each model run, they're wiggling south to north 100 miles either way. So when it comes to specific questions, those wiggles are going to matter. So answering them right now could give you a false expectation. So I'm going to stay pretty general with the answers, just to give you a heads up, because I think that's the best play right now It's not to save my butt. It's more so because we just genuinely don't know yet some of those finer details, and probably until tomorrow morning. But I'll try to make a post later on tonight. So Karen on Facebook says, so would you say Northern Kentucky worse Friday morning, Southern Kentucky worse Friday afternoon, traveling north Friday around lunch? I think the risk zones stay pretty much the same. I think northern half of Kentucky probably sees a bit more of that higher end severe weather, mainly because they're a little bit closer to the low pressure to the north up there. Our low pressure, by the way, just kind of show you kind of how these things are set up so it can make a little bit more sense to you. Our low pressure, by the way, let me do this. Here's kind of the setup, and this is why this is kind of a weird one here. We don't really see this type of setup, very often. So we have, let me go ahead and switch to red just for consistency purposes. Somewhere in here, it's not going to be the exact area, but somewhere in here, we have a low pressure that's going to be setting up directly to its south. We're going to have a high pressure set up. So I think it's important to know this in this type of situation. And pretty much anytime these two get close together, the high pressure is always going to want to try and join the low pressure. So what you're going to have is warm air coming up out of the Gulf, shooting all the way up here to the low pressure. At the same time, you're going to see cold front coming down in from Canada, coming this way toward the low pressure. Everything wants to go to the low pressure. At the same time, you're going to see a jet stream that kind of wiggles like this and comes right in from the west to east. So everything is going toward that low pressure. When you have all these things mixing together and trying to pull off to the east there, what happens usually is as a result to the south of that low pressure, you're going to see severe weather. How far south that severe weather or strong storms or whatever goes is the exact question. So that's why in this scenario, the more north you are, the more prone you are to seeing severe weather. So that's why for even every time frame that we're talking about here, that's why we're talking about the potential for the northern half of the state being more vulnerable because it's closer to the low pressure. So I hope that answers that question. I know this one is a bit of a tricky one, all those fancy lines there, and I could get way more nerdy about that, but I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible because this is quite complex stuff here. And so you got all that warm air and humid air coming in from the Gulf. You got cold air trying to drive in behind it to catch up. And you've also got all the wind energy coming off of the Pacific and a bunch of dry air coming in from your Great Plains over here, all that the Midwest. And all of it's going to mix in that green circle. Which, by the way, you can kind of look and see that it's already doing it. So just for example, if you see all this stuff over here to the left side of your screen, that's the first technical round from this entire storm system. So we can already see that it's starting to perform. Your low pressure is actually over here right now. High pressure is somewhere in here. Not sure exactly because I haven't looked in a while. But here it is. It's kind of already trying to start to do it. Here's your high pressure trying to get up to that low pressure. Low pressure is trying to go east. And you have all this influence from all these different portions here that are now starting to pop off severe storms over here toward Nebraska. And that's going to continue to travel east and produce a severe threat in northern Indiana, northern Illinois, this area tomorrow, and then our area tomorrow evening, if possible, again, depending upon how far south that mixture of air travels. So, and you kind of see this, by the way. This is kind of something you don't see a whole lot either. So, again, and then I'll stop with the nerdy stuff because I know it's boring. But this is pretty cool. This is pretty different right here. I don't know if this model is going to show it. Yeah, it does a little bit. So you can see the difference. So look at Kentucky, by the way. See how we have slightly lower dew points than what's to our north? That's because the high pressure is trying to sneak in the warm and moist air on the backside here. And what it's doing is kind of creating that C effect. Almost looks like a C, the letter C, if you kind of follow the inside here. And so, again, really cool stuff. And then, of course, you can look at the backside here and see, oh, there's the dry air George was talking about. This is much drier out here. And it's forcing all that to the east. And when all those things are forced together with a jet stream that's going to be rocking like we're seeing, that's why we're talking about, hey, everything that we're looking at here is screaming to us storms and severe weather. How far south the storms and severe weather goes is yet to be determined. But again, I do think at least the northern half of Kentucky is definitely at play to see all modes of severe weather all 3 rounds. The more south you go, it's there. The potential is there, but we just don't know yet. So hopefully that gives a good explanation on that. That's a good question, by the way. Also, Mike, can you clip that? I feel like I want to use that if you're in here. Hey George, when will you be offering these shirts for sale? You all like this polo? Is this something you all are interested in? Let me know. Thank you, One Proud American on YouTube. I appreciate that. Okay, back to some of your questions. Thank you. Would you personally advise against travel Friday, middle of the day? Again, that's one of those details that we're going to have to wait till we get a little bit closer on to see the exact time frames for things. But if it were me, my car would be under a tarp and not moving on Friday at all. That's just me. So, take that for what it is. When should we expect storms in Horse Cave and Jamestown? We have a field trip and camping. I am a nervous wreck. Yeah, that's probably not a good idea to go outdoors in the middle of all this. So no matter the time frame I give you, that's probably not something you want to do. Again, time frames, guys. It could be Thursday evening. That's the first potential round. Friday morning, really around sunrise, 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. ish. It's kind of looking like the time frame for now. Again, these time frames can change, folks. And then Friday afternoon, basically 4 to 5 p.m. and beyond. So again, we might see a little bit of a break late morning, early afternoon on Friday. But again, to be caught outside in any type of weather like this, even if it's traveling or not, I don't recommend that, because if you get a larger hail core over you, which there will be widespread large hail, you definitely don't want to be in a tent when that happens. Will the lid hold? Again, that's one of those questions that we're just not going to be able to tell until the day of, guys. Again, models can do all they want, but until we get to the day of and see how the exact environment conditions are, you're not going to know those little answers like that until then. Will we stay quiet for tonight? We will. We will have the potential for some storms to pop off here soon. But as a matter of fact, they're really not popping off like the model did indicate. I do think the potential for like far eastern, northeastern Kentucky, basically where we drew that circle earlier, has a potential for some strong storms late tonight. But it's already getting to 8:40 and storms have not started. So I'm assuming there's probably a big cap over our environment still. Go back to full screen here. Thanks, sorry. No, don't be sorry at all. Yeah, this Friday is not a good time for this to come through. I know there's a lot of people wanting to do things this Friday and this weekend. A lot of graduations going on, so on and so forth. But what we've been advising folks all day that have reached out to us, companies and school systems and everything like that, is to just do not plan on anything for Friday. Again, we will have a break in the action, but trying to pinpoint that break in the action this far in advance, even though it seems very close, it's impossible. And once more, you just don't want to plan on anything where you're going to have folks that are going to be out traveling to or from. Because if you're having an event or something like that, you can't just think about the time frame of the event. You have to think about the folks that are going to be traveling before and after. So it's not something that's a pretty scenario. So to me, anything on Friday probably should be removed, especially if you're in the northern half of the state. Southern half or more east you are, obviously less of the severe threat, but again, it still could see strong storm potential. Love to have a t-shirt. By the way, we do have a t-shirt shop at the top of our Facebook page. I haven't updated it in quite some time, but if you guys are interested, I will try and set something up to where we can make some fresh new t-shirt designs that maybe aren't going to cost as much, because the one store we did use unfortunately cost a lot because I didn't really know what I was doing. We didn't really set those prices. But we can work on something else if that's something everyone's interested in. I think it'd be pretty cool to see some W&K shirts around. I'm feeling nervous about this. How are you personally feeling? It takes a lot to get me nervous. And so at this point, I'm not really nervous about anything, because again, this is one of those situations where genuinely, guys, when I tell you we need to wait until we get a little bit closer, we need to wait till we get a little bit closer. Because everything right now is screaming a big time event. It is. That's just what it is. All right. But we need to wait till we get a little bit closer, because those little bitty details that we talked about are going to be very important on determining where exactly these things are going to set up and what exactly those setups are going to be. This could still transition to more of a tornado threat, but at this point, I think it's more of a hail and damaging wind threat. Would definitely buy one. Yeah, okay. I will definitely talk with Vinyl Affairs, and we'll, which is in Harlan County, Kentucky, and we'll see what we can do. Cherise, yeah, I'll definitely look into that. By the way, someone sent stars a long time ago. I wanted to say thank you. Lisa, thank you for your 50 stars. I appreciate that. I know it was 20 minutes ago. Don't know if you're still in here, but thank you very much. As long as you add hoodies to the list, yeah, there would definitely be, because that's when I'm not on the video here with you guys, that's pretty much all I wear. Do you think this will be anywhere near April 2nd in terms of the weather? Again, I think this is a different system. I think it is. I'm also not the type of person that compares systems. I'm just not, because I think every system has something that's a little bit different about them. That's the beautiful thing about our world, is that we have not seen everything yet. And I think this system is a little bit different in the aspect of, I definitely think larger hail is the main potential. There will be a few tornadoes, But I don't think I don't the when you compare it to the damaging wind and large hail potential, it's not anything in regards to those two. I think you're going to see a lot of damaging hail reports. If you have a garage and it's full of stuff and you're like, man, I don't want to clean this stuff out, this is probably time to clean that out and put that car in the garage. This is a time to get on Amazon real quick and order a car cover. It costs a little bit of money, and obviously you hope to God that it doesn't come to that. But we want to have something. I still know people in Owensboro that are still struggling to get stuff done from their golf ball sized hell event a month ago because insurance companies just move slow. They just do. We all know this. They move slow. They want your money, but they don't want to get anything done for you. So we know that they move slow. Okay. So to me, this is something that you definitely want to run, buy a tarp or a car cover. Like I think last month I bought a car cover for the first time because I just don't want to deal with the insurance companies. And then, of course, make sure you have safety plans in place. Retimmer says something about coming to BG. Again, I don't get into all that because I don't know. I don't know. But I think he's because Reed loves. He won't admit it, but I think he likes to chase hail more than he does tornadoes. So the fact that he wants to come to Kentucky on Thursday and Friday probably shows me more that he's looking for hail. Again, the tornado threat is there, guys. It is quite large, but I think a lot of these storms will be elevated. I really do, and I think that means we're looking at more of a hail and damaging wind threat. Can you talk about what kind of non-garage protection carriers may need for the hail for hail this big? Will a canvas tarp protect glass? I'm really not that scientific, but I do know that a lot of your car covers, especially if you stuff it with something underneath like a cover, like if you get a blanket from inside and put that around your car first, and then put a car cover over your car, 9 times out of 10 you're going to be pretty good. Because that's what we do. What I do, let me tell you what I do. By the way, Linda, thank you for your 99 stars. I appreciate that. Haley, thank you for your 100 stars. I appreciate that. Let me tell you what I do. What I do when I have an event like this is I go out there and I put some old covers that we have, some of those thick comforters, if you will, or like old pillows. Put them on the car, and then we have a car cover that straps onto the car. So I put that over that stuff that we talked about there. And usually I've never had a problem. So I don't know the scientific stuff behind it, but my whole idea is to make it to where when something hits the car, it's softer. I even had a limb fall on the car with that April 2nd event. And because we did those things, the car was not damaged. So again, to me, I don't know exactly what they sell and all that stuff, but I don't think you need anything super expensive. For example, the car cover we got on Amazon was $70. Yeah, it sucked to spend $70, but it's a lot cheaper than having your insurance rates go up or having to wait for an insurance company to approve a new windshield or anything like that for you. So that's what I do. You're talking about tornadoes. Are you meaning tornadoes touching down or radar indicated tornadoes? Well, I don't really know how to answer that question. When I'm talking tornadoes, I'm talking tornadoes. There's not a difference between radar indicated and touching down. I don't really know how to answer that one, Mason. That's not. I don't think that's a right question. I'm not trying to be mean. I don't know how to answer that. Because when we forecast tornadoes, we're not forecasting based upon what radar is going to show us. We're forecasting based upon what we think is the potential that's there. So, okay, I think we're getting into some questions about more specific locations at this point. If you have missed anything on this broadcast, of course, make sure you go back and watch. It'll be available on YouTube and Facebook for you to watch. We do have a new model coming in here soon. It's almost 9 o'clock Eastern. So again, I'm going to hop off and go look at some of that stuff. I appreciate all of you tuning in. Don't freak out too much, guys. This does have the potential to be a bigger event. But again, we'll let you guys know. And as long as you take the correct, precautions and prepare adequately, 9 times out of 10, folks, you're going to be okay. Those people that get hurt or those people that lose everything or so on and so forth, usually those people didn't take the time to prepare or listen to the warnings or heed the call. So as long as you're doing those things, I wouldn't freak out. That's just me. That's just me. Again, most of those folks that end up getting injured, but of course, unless it's an extreme event like Mayfield or Dawson Springs, that's a major event. No matter what you did, you would have been taken out by that. Right? I'm talking about more of your stuff like this for hail and things like that. Most times when you take precautions and you stay indoors and you stay off the roadways, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. So don't freak out. We'll be here with you guys throughout it all. And of course, I'll have more updates for you. But for now, I need to go and look at the new model data coming in. And I'll make a post here later on what my thoughts are on that. I'm George Herbig, Chief Forecaster here with Weather Now Kentucky. Thank you so much for tuning into our broadcast. Look for an update from us on YouTube or Twitter or Facebook. Follow us on all three of those and you won't miss a thing. Until next time, stay safe, friends.